my free software, and it stopped working. And so as a result of my new job, I got Word, of the whole Word suite for free. So I can now use PowerPoint. My God, it streamlined all of my work. I was finished so much quicker. Okay, so we're going to look at the sixth house today, and this picture. This picture is from the 14th century, and one of the things that we do, we tend to work basically between the 2nd and the 16th century or 17th century. And especially, I tend to do a lot of focus on Guido Bonatti, who's from the 13th century, and the next century after that, in the 14th century, Europe goes through this horrible experience called the bubonic plague. And so this is actually a picture or a portrait of two people who are dying of the bubonic plague and what that looked like at the time. And so the reason that we're doing that is because traditionally the sixth house is the house of illness. Okay. And so last week, so right now we're doing, what is it? We're doing 3, 6, 9, and 12. We're doing, what did we just do last week? Did we do 8, 3, 6, 12? We've done 12. I forget which one what was the last house we did? Anyway, we looked at cadency last time. I think we did too. So it would have to be either 6 or we're doing 6, 9, or 12. So it must have been 12. So when we looked at 12, we looked at cadency. And so when we've talked about cadency, and of course, Shanice has been with me here, and she's also been with me on Clubhouse. Both of the Leilas have been with me for such a long time. So you know what I'm going to say, right? You know that we have a tendency when we look at planets that is second house. Thank you. So we were talking about, oh, that's right. We were talking about gates of Hades last time. That's right. And not cadency. Thank you. But you know that I'm always making this point about that fourth consideration in the 146 considerations, which talks about what makes things happen in the chart. What are the 16 ways? And the first 2 ways in which things either happen or don't happen is if a planet is in an angle or a succeeding house, which means it's advancing, or a planet is in a cadent house, which means it's in a state of what it's called retreat. And so this little chart here is basically to kind of further reconfirm or reaffirm this belief at that time. So cadency was weakness. If you're looking for something, it's further, the further away from an angle is, the further it is. If it's a likelihood of discovery, it's little hope of discovery. Timing of application, it tends to slow things down. It tends to be the longest time. Matters of price will be the lowest price. Matters of illness, lack of vitality, right? Because the planet loses its ability to push forward. It loses its ability to fully shine. Let's put it that way, to fully shine, right? And so remembering that the sun represents life and light equals life. If something can't fully shine, then that light is dimmed, which means then the life is also dimmed. So light equals life. Okay. So not only did this make it faster, but it gave me all these cute little things that I could do to kind of make it prettier or more interesting looking. So all of the next few slides are going to be from Deborah Holding. And if you don't know already, that's the book that I always, it's called The Temples, what is it called? The Houses, Temples of the Sky by Deborah Holding, Houlding. And I'll put that in the chat later. And that is absolutely the book that everybody should have about houses. She goes all the way from Manilius and Valens from the 1st and 2nd century and comes up into even talking about modern house meanings, but it's not a really big book either. So if you're not familiar with that book, everybody should have that in their library. Anyway, so in ancient astrology, the 12th and 6th houses had similar meanings, both connected with weakness, infirmity, and toil, right? So think about, we've already done the 12th house where it talked about slavery and labor. It talked about hospitals, institutions and hospitals. All right, so the 6th house is where the infirmity happens. The 12th house is where we go into the institution to treat it. right? You can think of it in that way. So the temple that is immediately above the horoscope and is the next but one to heaven's zenith, right? So that's the 12th house, is a temple of ill omen, hostile to future activity, and all too fruitful of bane. Excuse me. Excuse me. Nor that alone, but likened to it will prove the abode with confronting star shines. So confronting star would be the opposing star from the Occident, right? Because the 6th house is in the West and adjacent to it. And so which is the 6th house, right? So he's basically saying the houses of ill omen are the 12th and the 6th. And so that this temple should not undo the former, right? So it doesn't undo the former. Thank you. Oh, there's a download, good. And I also have a free link too, if that one doesn't work. And so that this temple should not outdo the former, each alike moves dejected from a cardinal point with the spectacle of ruin before its eyes. I love that. Each shall be a portal of toil. In one you are doomed to climb, right? That's the 12th. In the other to fall. Now this is interesting to me, this last paragraph, and starting from, and so that this temple. And so that this temple should not outdo the former, each alike moves dejected from a cardinal point. So the cardinal points being the 1st and the 7th. The 12th moves away from the 1st. The 6th moves away from the 1st. I mean, from the 7th, right? Right, because it doesn't go 6 to 7, right? Once again, we've got the whole thing with the celestial movement versus the planetary movement. And what should look like it's going, if talking 6/12 ask, I like the distinction between visible illness, broken foot, flu, etc., versus invisible addiction, psychological. Well, also, I mean, like I said too, remember the 12th includes things like hospitals, treatment centers, right? So it includes institutionalization, right? So which something the 6th house doesn't hold. So that's, I think, in some ways the difference. And also it's interesting that, the 6th house originally was considered the house of enemies, they both have enmity, although the further that you go into the tradition, by the time we get to Benatti, it will be, the 12th house will be specific to enemies. Then when we get
really? I still give it to the 6th. I don't give enemies to the 12th unless you don't know about them.
Well, because it's not until we get to the 15th, 14th, 15th, 16th century that we start talking about the 7th house as the house of open enemies.
Right.
So now we kind of go from Lilly and all the people of the 17th century who were saying, yes, your open enemy is your 7th house, right? Because that's opposing you. Your 12th house is your hidden enemy.
Does it say anything about their thoughts on marriage? If it rules your partner and someone who's an open enemy, what does that say about the institution of marriage as it was seen?
All's fair in love and war is what it says.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, the thing is that the 7th house contains marriage and divorce. It's the chase and it's the hunt and the capture and the disregard, or the divorce, right? So it's the whole dance.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That's cool.
So that's an important point, though. The question you're asking is an important point about what the distinctions are between the 12th and 6th, because the 12th is where you get put away. 12th is quarantine.
Yeah, that's one of the main significators. Even modern is seclusion.
Right. Exactly, because it's a place of isolation. It's because Saturn is the author of isolation, and it's his joy. Yeah. So the 6th house is Mars's joy, and Mars is the ruler of the pestilence and the pox and the cholera. Get it? So Mars makes more sense. So when we're talking about enemies, it makes sense, and we're going to basically look at this in a second, because this was called the Temple of Mars. So anyway, let me stop here and we'll move to the next one, because we didn't get to it yet. Let me come back to that in a second. I'm going to come back to this when I come to the slide that mentions Temple of Mars, and then we'll look at that as enemies there. Latin word cadent means falling or declining. So this is why cadency, illness, and decline, and comes from the same root as the word cadaver, which means decayed or fallen, and which in the medical sense refers to a corpse. A planet in a cadent house has been carried by diurnal movement away from the cardinal position, symbolizing someone who has moved from a position of strength into a condition of weakness. So this is a really important thing I was kind of alluding to, which is this difference between the planetary motion, which goes in the order of the signs, and the celestial motion, which moves against the order of the signs and is stronger and thus moves the planets backwards. Right. So as the actual wheel moves forward, the planets move backwards. That's why it was believed that the 11th house was stronger than the 10th, because it was moving to this cardinal place. A planet in the Cadent house has been carried by a diurnal movement away from the cardinal position, symbolizing someone who's moved away from a position of strength into a condition of weakness. The angular house signify our own seats of power, places of familiarity and control. The further the distance between a planet and the angles, the less potency it possesses, and the more alienation, there's this isolation or orientation idea, it experiences in its environment. Originally, all of the Cadent houses had some representation over foreign places and situations. The lack of familiarity undermines the ability to be effective, in turn denoting weakness and bringing implications of fear and danger. Now, once again, I want to just make a point. And first of all, hi, welcome, Klutze. Great to have you. We've got such a nice big new group. So Rob Hand said that one of the things that he had, one of the things that he felt he had disproven, or that he felt did not hold true, was the fact that planets were weaker in Cadent houses.
Chef's kiss on that one.
I don't necessarily agree.
I know, I just like to think it.
I don't necessarily agree, and you know I don't necessarily agree.
But, okay, but
however,
a planet in its house of joy.
Let me do my caveat first. I have a caveat. My caveat is this. There are certain things in which we need things to be in the background in order for the things that we really are trying to do to happen. For instance, if I'm a writer, my writing needs to happen in the background. It needs to happen. It doesn't need to be something that I need to be known for as much as I need to do in isolation. Right? The only way I can be known for being a writer is to write. And the only place that I can really do that writing is in those mutable house spaces that nobody's looking at. And so I think what I think is happening with a lot of these things. Now, we've seen it where, sure enough, just being in the 6th or 12th just fucks shit up, right? No contest, no problem, right? But we also have seen where, hey, that's just something that no one else gets to see, but's working in the background. And that's my feeling about what a lot of, except the 9th house, right? If you're a priest, the 9th house is your 10th house.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Lil?
Just that the planetary joy. I don't think it's necessarily even actually about better or worse. I think, at least in the case with Saturn, I understand Mars in the 6th less, but the significations of Saturn match the significations of the 12th. You're not working at cross purposes. So to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, but also it makes sense that Saturn, the greater malefic, is in his joy in the most malefic house of the chart.
I feel that. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So it's like, it's that, and of course, what I always say when I think of Saturn in the 12th is Saturn finds the productivity in the isolation, right? Because Saturn is labor.
Yeah, or it's the product of long labor. That's what happens slowly versus Mars, what happens like quickly,
and
like a rapid, yeah.
And behind closed doors.
Totally, yeah.
And behind closed doors. So not without the Saturn in. So let's say you've got an employee that's got Saturn in the 12th. That's the one you don't need to supervise. because that's the one who, matter of fact, will hate it. It will hate the micromanaging, or if they've got the chart ruler in the 12th.
Have it, hate it.
Or
True.
the moon in the 12th.
My chart ruler, which is Saturn in the 12th, and I hated it.
Right? Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the one where you say, hi, this is your little closet. I'll be back next month.
Yeah.
You know, check in with me once a week by email. You don't have to talk to anybody. You have your own coffee thing. You've got your own bathroom. That's what the 12th house people like. Just let me do my thing. And don't hover over my shoulder. Now we're talking about the 12th now, when really we're supposed to be talking about the 6th. So let's move away from clarifying the 12th house for a second and move back to try to get a fucking grip on the 6th house. But knowing that they're opposite from each other, right? It's useful to understand. So if the Saturn aspect of the 12th, if the isolatory aspect of the 12th is what we're looking at when we're defining the 12th, then there must be something about the choleric fighting aspect of the Mars, or the combative aspect of the Mars. And I want to bring to your attention something that especially men always say about their wives who have died of cancer. Can you tell me what it is?
She was a fighter.
She was a fighter.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's good, Garth.
She was a fighter. It's something every man says about his wife who has died of something. So there is Mars as the ruler of the 6th, there is this temple of the 6th, right? So let's actually go ahead and move to the next one. Oh, perfect. Temple of Mars. So yeah, so that's our perfect, shall we say, entree into this concept. So, and also into the concept of 6th house and enmity. So going over here, so see my newfangled shit over here. Look how lovely, like I've never been able to make really cute ones like this before.
Profesh, looks good.
Very profesh. Okay, so anyway, so temple of ill omen, misery, bane, and toil, hostile to future activity. We just read all that. Slaves, toil, illness, infirmity, enmity, bad fortune, right? So this is called the house of bad fortune. Health. Okay, so here's Formicus. He's what, 4th century, 5th century. Physical infirmities and sickness. Now it starts to become really specifically about physical infirmity and sickness. I mean, it already is, right? Slaves, toil, illness, infirmity, enmity. Called Malefortuna because it is the house of Mars. Debilitated and passive because it does not aspect the ascendant. Sickness does not, defects of the body, overwork. Mars, right? Mars is too much action. If unfortunate, loss of property. Disease of internal organs, slave, right? Because the 6th house represents viscera, represents your internal organs. Slaves, maids and cattle. So we're going to talk about servants and slaves. So that's something, look, with Al-Biruni, all of a sudden we see this. Al-Biruni is 8th century. So it's only from Al-Biruni that we start to see slaves, servants, well, not slaves, but servants specifically, cattle, well, except we start to see cattle later, right? We start to see cattle with the 12th house later, farming and cattle later with the 12th, and small animals and domesticated animals and even pets now you can use for the 6th. So we see that comes with the 8th house. And I don't know, why that might be. I mean, if you think about the farm, which would be the 4th house, the 3rd house be the animals in the farm. You know what I'm saying?
I thought we gave small to 6, big to 12.
Well, no, I'm thinking from the 4th house.
Oh, like a derived?
Right. I'm wondering why. I'm just wondering where animals came from, and if
possessions of the earth, 2nd from the 4th. Oh no, that's still 5th though, isn't it? That's not.
That would be the 5th, right?
Yeah.
See, I thought 5th too would make more sense. But yeah, so I'm not really sure. So it's not based on the derivative houses. I wonder where. So I'm just wondering where and when it may have come. Let's see. Someone else may have a possible. Animals are our friends. Now it's interesting, Sarah. That's a very interesting point that you make. I studied with Robert Zoller, who was one of the people who brought the classical astrology thing back. And I mean, I worked with Rob Hand too, but specifically I took Rob Zoller's class. And Rob Zoller was one to actually use the 5th house for pets. He did not, what the fuck? He did not, see fucking PowerPoint. He did not use, what the?
How far are we going back for this? You want like Firmicus or like
Here,
Ptolemy?
hold on a second. No, there we go. This is where we are. We'll just do it from this. Okay, so he basically said that he thought that the 5th house should be used because pets are like our children. And so he even used a horary where he did that as an example. And, you know, basically, if you have enough belief in something with astrology, you can make things work. On that, in the Reddit horary thing, there's the main moderator is Kid Cubby, who's a fantastic horary astrologer.
So good.
Isn't he wonderful?
So good.
So wonderful. But he and I almost never come to this. We almost always come to the same conclusion, but almost never in the same way, right? Because I have my way of doing it and he has his way. And we highly respect each other for that. But you know, there's just ways, depending on what your thing with astrology is, you can make certain things work that other people aren't interested in or aren't able to. And so I don't know where that came from, but anyway, so Temple of Mars, this is where enemies comes from. When you have an illness, what do? You have to fight it. Your body has to fight. That's what the T cells are for. That's what the red blood cells are for. Red is Mars, right? So all of this aspect of what we do to fight disease is Mars, right? So anything where we've seen disease, we've seen it supposed that the 6th is for domesticated small animals, because we consider pets now, we were essentially our servants, working animals, not so much family members as we may consider now. Fantastic point. Who made that?
Yeah, because there's a lot of toil involved. Yeah, that's true.
Make a fantastic point. Yeah, beasts of burden. And also remember the 12th house was the real beasts of burden, the oxen who carry the yoke. Right? So it was the big animals that could be ridden. So what ended up happening, that's why I'm thinking this is so interesting, because it moved away from cattle and moved to cattle and small animals, but the 12th house got the animals that were big and the 6th house got the animals that were small. So, but as far as Mars and the 6th, which is really what we're kind of talking about, that's where this kind of idea of Mars and the 6th house and enmity can come from, or 6th house and enmity. Obviously, what has to happen in the face of an illness is there's a war, right? There's a fight to the life, a fight to the death for life, right? So that's where we fight to the death for life.
Is Mars also rule injuries, like not just getting sick?
Yeah,
like
yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So it would make sense then Joy's in the 6th.
Yeah, good point. I forgot. That's an excellent point. Anything that draws blood.
Right. I used to work with this astrologer who, when she would see Mars in a certain position, she would always ask the client if they've ever gotten surgery of some kind, because it was being cut.
Part of the body.
And she said more often than not, she was right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why when you're seeing Mars in the 5th house, we're seeing miscarriages and abortions.
Oh, that's interesting.
Where the blood is drawn. Where he makes the blood grow, where he draws the blood, remember in this period, how did we fix things? By bleeding people, by putting leeches, by leaching blood out of them. Mars. Right? That's the Scorpio aspect of Mars. Because remember, Scorpio is also poisons. So this is Valens. If benefics happen to be in this place, the native will lose whatever he possesses. His property will not stay with him. He will suffer loss because of fines when advanced in years. Now, one of the things I remember seeing for the 6th house, and I remember it even showing up in a chart that showed up on Reddit, was someone was asking about why they moved all the time. And I remembered seeing that sixth house represented moving from place to place a lot. I'm going to see if we can find it here. And he had sixth house really, he had sixth house like angular or something like that. Like it was really focused on. Okay, so here we come to Al-Biruni and Al-Khabizi. Six, over illness and slaves and his beasts. Pretty simple. Sixth house of infirmities and slaves, end of life and whatever's going to happen before old age, because usually infirmity precedes old age. Al-Andagar said the first lord of Pussy house is the house of infirmities, signifies infirmities and recovery from infirmities. The second one, domestics and slaves. The third signifies what will find him in terms of those and their usefulness of work. So they're referring to domestics and slaves. So it seems by the time we get to the 9th century, slaves and domestics are here in the 6th house. Slavery, enslavement might be in the 12th. Enmity, and look, we're not seeing enemies at all, are we? Nothing about it. And the house is a significator of beasts and flock animals and all four-footed things, and their strength, also their multitude or scarcity, and by the custom of their being in his hand or their going out from it. Also prison and detention. Isn't that interesting? Because that's 12th house. So what's happening? What's happening is we're moving away from this idea of the 6th house as the temple of Mars as we get into this medieval Islamic period. 6th house, Banaki. Infirmities and male and female slaves. And it is said this house is that of illnesses on account of the fact that it is outside the house of games and delights and goes towards the 7th, which is the house of public enemies. Okay, there's public enemies, Leila. 7th house.
Public, I got you.
Century.
Public enemy, also a great weapon.
Yeah, so 13th century public enemies. And Al-Khabizi said it signifies whatever is going to be before old age. We saw, oh, well, we were just looking at Al-Khabizi, weren't we? And At-Dawla said that it signifies servants and beasts which are not ridden. Okay, by the 13th century, it beasts that are not ridden. And the 6th house signifies vassals and justices. Isn't that interesting? Signifies change from place to place. There it is. And Saul said the 6th house is Cadent from the ascendant, nor does it aspect it, and it is a malign place. And Al-Daragar said the first, oh, right, so we already saw that, right? And the second one, domestics and slaves, third, blah, 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 beasts and cattle, quadrupeds in their strength, multiple scarcity, and staying is possessed, right? So all the same stuff that we've read with Al-Khabizi, we're reading here with Banati, right? So basically, once we leave the Hellenistic period, once we leave Greece and move into the Middle East, into Persia and Saudi Arabia, once we get there, then everything moves away from Mars and moves more into this idea of slavery and infirmity and beasts. Okay, Shuner, this is 15th century, 15th, 16th. Evil fortune, it's called bad fortune, declares about illnesses and injuries of the body, servants and animals that are not ridden, okay? Rules in the lower belly with the intestines, the colon to the anus, co-significator Mercury, because Mercury is the natural ruler of servants. And now we're here with Lily. So galley slaves, maid servants, men and maid servants. Hogs, sheep, goats, hares, conies, all manner of lesser cattle, and profit and loss got thereby. So when we see the 12th, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be the big cattle. Sickness, its quality and cause, principal humor offending, curable or not curable, whether the disease be short or long. Look at all that. It's the sickness, its quality and cause, its principal humor, the principle of offending humor, whether or not it's curable, and whether or not the disease will be short or long can be seen from the 6th house.
Yeah. You can't do a medical horary pretty much without looking at 6th.
No, nor can you do a decumbrature, right? Which is pretty much what you're saying, kind of a medical horary, but the decumbrature is taken from the moment that you take sick. So the moment that you go to bed sick, or the moment that back then they'd take your urine. And so it'd be the moment that the doctor takes the urine would be when they would do the decumbrature. So day laborers. So now we come to what we still use the sixth for. People like your cable guy, the plumber, day laborers, tenants, farmers, shepherds. So if you're a landlord, then your tenant is the sixth house. Farmers, shepherds, hog herds, neat herds. So it looks like you're the plebes, the peasants, mourners, and it signifies uncles that are the fathers, brothers, and sisters, right? Because it's the third from the fourth. It rules the inferior part of the belly and the intestines, even to the arse. This house is a feminine and cadent house. Unfortunate is having no aspect to the ascendant, and it's got the black color. Remember, the 12th and the 6th house are both black. Mars rejoices in this house, but his co-significator is of the signs of Virgo, a planet's Mercury. So Mars rejoices here, and of course, planet is Mercury is the co-significator. We usually find that Mars and Venus in conjunction in this house are arguments of a good physician. Who was here when we did medicine, when we did looking at medicine? And didn't we find that Mars was involved? It was surgeons. And Mars was involved, but so was the sixth, wasn't it? Do you all remember? It's the videos on YouTube, but a bunch of you were with me. So I know what I know that Layla Akbar, I think you were there, weren't you? All right, everybody. Oh, you were, Maria. Do you remember the sixth house coming up quite a bit? I mean, it should have. Okay, so as you see how it streamlined all that for me? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go not as much as Mars. Okay, thank you. We're just going to go to the Bonatti about the parts. I thought we would look at what the parts are for this particular, because as I've always said, when you are trying to figure out what a house represents, but I can see how it would work being configured to try to the 10th. Well, I wasn't, oh, no, oh, that's a great point. Let me come back to that in a second. This whole thing with the 10th and the sixth house and work and Mars and all that stuff. No, I was thinking of really the sixth house being connected to ill health as opposed to it being connected to the 10th of work. Okay, so, and for those of you who are newish to me, one of the things I was wondering about with this whole idea of how did the sixth house get connected to work? And we see it's connected to labor and to servitude and to being a laborer. And we even had a person here who was in our group who was a day laborer, and he had important sixth house stuff with for his career oriented stuff. But what I tended to find instead with the sixth, instead of being able to see it as like a career indicator, was it was an indicator of the duties the person would be responsible for, right? Because a laborer, a maid, a butler, a chauffeur, all that sixth house stuff is responsible for certain specific duties. And so the sixth house is a house of duty, in my opinion, or of duty and labor, but not necessarily a house of what your work and career. Nor do I even think it's like the work that you just do for money, as opposed to like a person that just works for money, as opposed to the person that actually has a career. I don't think it's that either. I think it really is about being a servant, you know, actually like a maid, a butler, a cable guy, a plumber, in the service industry, a cable guy, a plumber, or something of that nature, a construction worker. Okay, so as I always say, looking at the parts for any particular house tells you what the house is about. And so, of course, the first two parts are about infirmities. The third part is the house of servants, is the part of servants. The fourth part part of captives and the conquered. There we go. There is Mars. Captives and the conquered. Don't see that anywhere else. You would think now, because where is war? Hey, Leila Kabiri, where is war? Which house would Benatti be using for war?
Benatti for war. I honestly am not sure.
Anybody?
Let's see.
Andrew, guess.
Well, if seventh is open enemies, that to me seems like armed conflict.
Very good. Excellent. So what's this doing there?
It's, yeah, why? Captives of war.
The 12th from the 6th,
The sixth.
7th. The 6th is the 12th.
The slaves of war. Slavery is given to the 12th.
12th from the 7th. These are your
That's
captives of war.
That's super interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
So these are our 4. And then the last thing that we tend to look at when we, and interestingly enough, today I did not, I just kind of did this on the fly a little bit today. So I did not actually look at any charts, but I can come up with some charts. And if you know of any charts of people who have illnesses or whatever, something comes up to you. I know, Kabira, you tend to often understand charts. We can look at that and we can look it out. We can come up with the almutins this is the almutin of servants. Here's for infirmities. So we would look at the 6th house, its lord, the part of Azimine, and I wonder which one they would use. Its lord, the first triplicity lord of the 6th house, which if you remember is the one that represents illness. Any questions? I'm going to stop the share and pause the. What I thought I would do to begin or to start, even though this has a B rating, a lot of it fits really, really well. Franklin D. Roosevelt was a president of the United States, and he is basically the only president of the United States who is disabled. And or that is kind of known now for being disabled. At the time, people did not know. Now remember, this is way before the internet. This is before television. He became president in 1933, and he died in office in 1945. So this is the age of radio, where often people never saw their president or never saw never saw famous people in reality. And so it was and when he would perform, I mean, not perform, but when he would usually address the nation, it would be on the radio, or if he did do it in person, he would usually have 2 bodyguards who would kind of walk him to a podium, and then he would stand at the podium and speak. So he was able to kind of mask it, but he was completely paralyzed from the waist down, lost use of his legs as a result of getting polio while he was swimming, while he was in his 30s. It happened when he was in his late 30s. I think he was 37. So what do we see? So what would we be looking for, folks?
Stuff in the 6th. You got the ruler of the ascendant there.
Right. And what's the sign on the cusp of the 6th?
Saturn ruled.
But what part of the body does Aquarius rule?
From your knees down, like your
legs.
calves and shins and stuff, your lower legs that don't work. Also, too, the ruler of the 6th in the 8th, I feel like is not cute.
Ruler of the 6th and the 8th, not cute. No, not necessarily. Also, the fact that it's squaring the Venus there's that mutual reception between Venus and Saturn. What does Venus rule?
Lots of stuff.
She rules the 9th and the 2nd. So 9th, we know this God kingship can be, right? So we know this is a very learned person. And Mercury in Aquarius usually also represents a person high intelligence and learned. But we do see here that there is a possibility for physical infirmity. Now, what if we look at it from the part of fortune? What is the 6th house from the part of fortune?
The 1st.
What sign
Did
is
I
it?
count wrong?
What sign? Yeah. So what sign is that? Virgo?
Virgo, yeah. So
Who rules
Mercury
that?
again. Mercury. So it just goes back. So
So
his
ruler. So the
ruler
ruler.
ascendant in the sixth, yeah, from the part of fortune
And
in the
what
first.
sign is the ruler of the part of fortune in?
It's in Gemini.
And who rules that?
Also Mercury. So it all goes back to Mercury.
Mercury and Saturn. Mercury and Saturn. Really Mercury, huh? Really kind of
Yeah.
Mercury. But we've got a chart where we've got a person who's consistent. And and one of the things they mentioned about him, which I mention every time I bring up this chart, it's a very interesting biography, was that Franklin Roosevelt had a weird immune system. Whenever he got ill, whenever he was under major stress, he would get ill. And if he went into any kind of major, he went through a public humiliation in the teens, and he basically was out of commission physically for almost like 3 months or something. But it was noted that whenever he went into deep stressful periods, he would go into deep physical disability. So it's interesting. So he was already susceptible to, he wasn't he was the opposite of the hypochondriac. He was actually like he was physiologically affected by his emotions and situations, and his immune system was weak. Now, this happened in 1920, I think, when he was 37. Hold on a second. I'm going to look this up for 1 minute. Because I want to see, let's look at the perfection. Speaking of perfections, let's see if we can find the perfection of the year that he lost his ability to walk.
Genitals are the 8th, right?
Genitals are the 8th.
Sorry, just not for fun, because it says he's here that he might have been impotent too.
Oh, no,
But
was that beforehand?
I don't know. That part I'm trying to see, because if it was part of the same swimming deal, I feel like it would be encompassed by everything we described. But if
Right.
it was separate, I want to look at the 8th.
Okay. Paralytic illness and comeback. 1922, but it's okay. He also sought to build support for a political comeback in 1920. Okay, while the Roosevelts were vacationing at Campobello Island in August of 1921, he fell ill. His main symptoms were fever. There's that should be Mars, symmetric ascending paralysis, that would be Saturn, facial paralysis, that would be whatever is the ruler of the first house, which would be face, bowel and bladder dysfunction, that would be 8th house, numbness, and hyperesthesia. Okay, so numbness would probably be Mercury in the and nerves. Left permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Okay, 1922. So in 1922, he would be 40. 36, 37, 38. Everybody can see the chart okay?
Yeah, thank you.
36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Now look at how that brings us to who? Saturn, who's the ruler of what?
The 8th.
The 5th.
I'm sorry,
and the 6th.
sorry, the 5th and the 6th. Yeah.
6th. He rules the 6th.
Exactly.
Okay, so all right, so already it's bringing us to that 1922. So this is January 30, February, March, April, May, June, July, August 30. So it would have happened somewhere in here, somewhere in between these two, right? Because July 30 is here. So it would have happened so basically the sun is what brings it to us. Look at that. Sun's in Sagittarius, Sun's in Aquarius.
So you're saying it was activated by year and then by month?
Then by month. I mean, I don't know the exact date.
Right.
All they told us was it was August. So I'm assuming it's not the end of August. But we also know that Cancer brings us to July 30.
Got it.
Right? That's my point.
So my quick Google, I can't figure anything about the impotence, but one thing that did occur to me is that some people call him the great communicator. He was known for being like really smart, really well read. Can the Mercury show both of those at once? Like
Absolutely.
physical infirmity, but like
Absolutely.
verbal. Okay.
Absolutely. Because remember, what did I say? Mercury and Saturn related signs, especially Mercury Aquarius, is usually high intelligence.
Okay. Yeah.
And note that it's trining, it's just separating from the trine to the Mars, from the part of fortune, from the rule of the part of fortune. So there's another connection between the sixth house oriented stuff and the Mars and the rule of the part of fortune. So between the rule of the part of fortune and the rule of the ascendant.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's is it daytime? No, it's nighttime. It's nighttime. That means that the first triplicity ruler of Aquarius is Mercury, which would represent infirmities. Okay, here's a great example of what Lily was just talking about. The sixth house will tell you where in the body, the legs. It will tell you whether or not it's coming or staying, coming and going or staying. It's a fixed house, so this was a permanent illness. It tells us what type of humors. Note that there's this earth sign, it's a fixed earth sign. So even notice that Saturn in a fixed earth sign has the power to stop something completely. And we've got the Venus moving to the square of the Saturn, and then she's going to move from the square of the Saturn to the conjunction of she's going to basically translate Saturn to the sun. So and remember, the sun is vitality. So then the sun is the symbol for vitality, and he's already in his detriment. So we've got the ruler of the ascendant, which is the body, in the sixth house, which is illness. And then we've got the significator for vitality and life. Remember that the rule of the first always represents life, but the rule of the sun always represents life too. And its detriment. And it's squaring its ruler. And okay, and here's one of those things, Shanice, where, yeah, the sun would have been pushing nature at Saturn, but that means he'd be pushing the sixth house at Saturn. He'd be giving him his ability to be the sixth house ruler, which is why it's so important when we're looking at reception that we're always looking at how and from what and what's being fortified. If Saturn's being fortified, certainly in this particular case, Saturn is being fortified by Venus. Right, so Saturn is being fortified by, excuse me. Now that in and of itself shows us that there could be impotence. Right? Saturn and Venus.
Why is it not go the other way? Sorry, I missed that part. Like Saturn in Taurus, is there not an exchange? Like Venus doesn't get anything out of that deal?
She does, but Saturn is ruler of the sixth house.
Got it. Okay.
So if he weren't, maybe.
Got it.
But he's the ruler of the sixth, so there could be your impotence right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
He had affairs. We know he was having a long-term affair with a woman.
Well, that's what the Google was saying, that I started looking into impotence, is they said something about how it was more likely an emotional affair because nothing was happening below the waist. But
yeah, that makes sense.
What it is.
Yeah, if he was paralyzed from the waist down, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Still, fingers and tongues still work.
That they do.
And so he could probably still get her going, so to speak. But maybe if he was dead from the waist down, it's more than likely. It's more than likely that that's the case. I'm going to bring up one other chart of Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was sick all the time. Yeah,
bring it. And I found one with a lot of planets too, if you want to look.
Beautiful.
Billy Idol.
Did he deal with a lot of illness?
He was an addict.
Oh,
so here's what I think is interesting. I got into a fight with someone on Reddit, which is part of the reason I'm going to look at this chart. Okay. He attributed all to the sixth. I think it has to do with the 12th house ruler. I think it has something to do with the 8th and the 12th house, but I'd be curious to see what you think. And he has, at least by Placidus, 1, 2, 4 or 5 planets in the 6th.
Okay, well, put it in, you put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, let's definitely look at it. Oh, I'll even see if I have it in my database. Okay, so Liz Taylor, we could have used Liz Taylor when we were looking at the seventh house in marriage, because she was married 6 times, twice to the same man.
Is it a Mercury? Oh, it is. I was gonna say, is it mutable?
It either be something mutable or a fertile sign. You know, usually that's what we see. Is Mercury in a fertile sign? Ha! He is. Right? So we're both proven right. Right, we're both proven right. So Mercury, so not only is Gemini on the cusp, but Mercury's in a fertile sign. The fertile signs, I think we talked a little bit about this before. The fertile signs are really important things to look at always with the 5th house, the sterile signs and the fertile signs, but also with the 7th. I'm finding that to be the case. And especially the Mercury signs on the 7th cusp.
Bad. Or no, not bad, but like you need variety.
Different, difficult. No, bad.
Bad. Okay, got it. Is
Shitty.
Leo
Shitty.
Leo
Why?
a
Why?
not so fertile sign?
Why? Why would it be shit? Why would Mercury signs be shitty for love?
I think it's because there's a inherent, at least Greek mythology speaking, there's an inherent hermaphroditism to Mercury. I feel like they can't make up their minds.
That's part of it. Also, Mercury is what? Child. Mercury is the child. Go there. Mercury is always a child. And also Mercury is not about Mercury. The 2 Mercury signs have wings. Those are called, there are 3 signs that have wings: Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. Those are the winged signs. So a sign with wings has a problem, what? Staying on the ground. That's why we call Gemini the social butterfly. Thank you.
The 7th house in Baron sign is legitimate.
I think we can, it's something that we should be looking at.
Let's look. I got it. My dating life's terrible.
And I do. And I do too. Right. And I do too. And I've never been married. Right. I've got Gemini. I've Sag rising Gemini on the 7th cusp. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be in every case. Obviously, Elizabeth Taylor was married many times. But look at what's going on with the Mercury down there. Mars and Sun. So all that cholera. So she was fighting all the time with Richard Burton. They were drunk and fighting all the time. She's on. So this is an addict's chart too. Elizabeth Taylor was on all kinds of pills. She was a drunk. She was an addict, and she was sick all the time. As a result,
all the time.
Sick all the time as a result. As a matter of fact, they think that she won her first Oscar because she was in the hospital and was so sick. And
like they gave it to her out of pity?
Out of pity, yeah, 1960, Butterfield 8. They think that, as a matter of fact, they were all laughing. They thought there was no way that she would win. And sure enough, but she was in the hospital. She almost died in the hospital. And they think that that's one of the reasons that she won, that it was kind of a pity. It was kind of a pity thing. Or they're thinking, well, she's going to die. Let this be the thing that she, let her be known for it. But so that's what I'm kind of saying. So someone's sick all the time. So let's look, shall we? So the ruler of the 1st house is Jupiter. Jupiter's in Leo. And didn't she have heart issues? She did have heart problems, I know.
Let's see.
Because later, especially, she had issues with the heart. Now, of course, one of the things, remember, that we can look at is
she died of congestive heart failure.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. We can be looking at a few things usually. We can be looking at the ruler of we can be looking at the house and this part of the body that represents. We can be looking at the rule, the 6th, which we just did with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But so let's start with the 6th. We've got Taurus on the cusp. That's the throat. That's also hormones. So that's thyroid and thymus. I think that there are thyroid and thymus things going on in her 30s and 40s. Do you see anything there, Layla?
Let me take a look. Yep. Let's see. Thyroid, thymus. Because its ruler is in detriment. Venus is in detriment.
No,
Is that why we're
because Taurus rules the throat and also
rules the okay.
rules the thyroid and the thymus, so rules things that are connected to that.
Okay, let's see what it says.
Thank you, Shanice. So sweet. So, and also there would be head issues. There might be migraines and problems. Also, remember the head is where we do our thinking. So Venus is in the, so there could be mental health issues in this chart.
Yeah.
Note also that Venus is separating from Jupiter. Venus is the ruler of the 6th, separating from Jupiter. Now, in this particular chart, Venus is not strong. Right? We don't have a chart. We don't have a chart like we did with FDR, where the chart rulers in the 6th, making them really susceptible to the first house, to the body really susceptible. But here what we've got is we've got that easy trine happening between Jupiter and Venus. There's no reception, so it's not, but however, somehow the Venus is making it felt. Now, why would that be the case? How and why would that be the case? And I'm going to ask, who is the ruler of the 6th house from the part of fortune?
5, 6. Moon. 1.
Is it
6
Mercury?
from part of fortune, right?
It's the sun. It's Leo is the 6th house.
Oh, Leo is the 6th. Okay.
And the ruler of the ascendant is in Leo.
Okay.
I don't see. Wait. If you count,
I thought it
6,
was
I get to the
Virgo.
8th house.
No.
Yeah.
The first would
1.
be Pisces. Aries is 2. Taurus
I
is
see.
3.
Gotcha.
Gemini is 4.
Oh, you're counting whole signs. Sorry.
Cancer is 5. And every remember, it's 30 degrees.
Yeah, I was just going by the. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
No, it's but sweetie, yeah. Even if you were going by the cusps, the 6th house would be Leo, right? Because unfortunately, it's right on the cusp of the 4th, right? So there's no real cusp, but remember when we always use whole sign when I go back and forth. That's why I'm always do both. Right. That's why I always say do both, because I'm always kind of switching things back and forth. And also nowadays, because I'm so back and forth with Jyotish these days too, I naturally see, oh, this is Pisces rising. That means that Mars rules the 5th, or rather Moon rules the 5th, Mars rules the 9th. This rules the blah, blah, blah. Sun rules the 6th. Venus rules the 7th and the 3rd, or whatever, you know, or 2nd and 7th, you know, like knowing which, what planets rule what houses for each ascendant tends to be useful.
Got it.
No matter what's going on with the cusps. Right. And so especially when we use the part of fortune as a whole sign. So now you can see, like, there's never a time that I look at a chart and say, and ignore the part of fortune. Have you ever seen me do it? Never.
No,
since
you
I've
never.
taught you about it. Since I've taught you about it, I've never ever do it. And so
You're a Renaissance man.
thank you. Literally, right?
It's terrible.
more medievalist, but
Sorry.
no, it's the truth. Why not? Hey, I'm not mad at you for speaking the truth. But so here we can see it. There, the ruler of the part of fortune is in the 6th. And trining the ruler of the regular 6th. So we've got Jupiter, the ruler of the 1st, trining the ruler of the 6th, and in the 6th from the part of fortune, and the ruler of the part of fortune. So it's connecting the part of fortune and the ascendant with the 6th house. And fortunately, she's not quite strong enough to bring her down all the way. And it's separating. Right? Because the Venus is in Aries, so she's in detriment, so she's not that super strong. And then she's also separating from the trine from Jupiter, so their main stuff is finished. and there's no reception. So this is why she was able to live as long as she was able to live with all the illnesses and to recover, in my opinion, possibly. In the way that she was able to recover. And then, I mean, this is a possibility. And of course, we see the moon here in the 12th, so this person's always making bad decisions. The Venus,
and it's
Mhm.
she can't control the emotions, has
Can't
an
control the
addiction.
Or is there, does she even have a connection to them?
To what? To her emotions.
Emotions.
No, maybe they're hidden, and that's why.
Well, I mean, certainly they're hidden under all of the alcohol, all the consumption.
Yeah, no,
All
but like it's like it's literally in the sky. The stuff in the 12th is your own blind spot, things you
Yes.
can't see.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and look at how blind it is, right? It's even combust. So we can't.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
say
even
the
blinded by fame.
ruler of the 12th, yeah, combust.
And it's blinded
And-
by the fame, right? Sun is fame, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to, something doesn't have to be addressed. I mean, she was a walking train wreck for years, for decades. For decades, she was a walking train wreck, pill popper, drunk, throwing up, blackout drunk every night for years. So we can see now, of course, when we're looking for consumption, what house are we looking for? What goes into our
House.
mouth? What?
House or planet?
House.
Different people say different things.
What-
Some people say second, some people say fifth. I've heard some people say sixth if the problem is obesity, is the illness related to eating.
Well, that's a different thing. If it's an illness related to blah, 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 naturally it's going to be the 6th, right? However, if it's bulimia or anorexia, what house will we be looking at?
Oh, I would say 12th, but I don't know if you would agree with me. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So consumption is the 2nd house. That's where our mouth and throat are.
Oh, look what she has there.
She's got the ruler of the 2nd in the 2nd. So
Yeah.
the interest, what about 2nd or 8th? No. Yeah, I don't necessarily see the 8th with consumption. Certainly not with food or what we would take in. Oh, for purging. Oh, I see what you see for bulimia and purging. Most people that are bulimic are purging from their mouth. So so even in that respect, I mean, I see what you're saying as far as the 8th house as purge, but I would still see that as
because of the bowels? Is that what you're saying?
no, I think she's thinking it as 2nd what goes in, 8th what goes out.
Got it.
Thinking, Shanice?
I don't know. I think of it as things we do to ourselves. Self-undoing is like classic 12th for me.
Yeah.
It's an
but
illness you bring on.
No. She was talking about bulimia. She was thinking about bulimia as it goes in and then goes back out. So it goes in through the 2nd and then goes out through the 8th. She
Got it. Okay.
confirmed
I
it.
mean,
yeah, all of that stuff is logical. And you know what, Shanice? Let's find some bulimic charts someday and look at that. I'm not saying no. It's not something I thought. I love it. Shanice has done a few things where she's brought up certain things, certain kind of logical. She's taken things to a logical next step that, I wouldn't necessarily thought to do it, but hey, why don't we look at it? And so that's the kind of thinking we should all be kind of engaging in. So good work. Just everybody, fantastic. I'm not trying to steal anybody else's thunder by giving her some kudos here, but I just wanted to bring that to the attention. It's the 2nd time it's kind of happened, and so I just want to say fantastic, you're stupendous. All right, let's look at Billy Idol. Unless any more questions about this?
no, I think those were the main things, right? That she's famous, that she's been married a lot, that she's had medical issues,
but
and
ill.
she's an
We're
addict.
talking about the
And
illness.
ill. Yeah.
That's what we're really looking at it for.
No, which I think it shows. I think you're right. Easy trying to yeah.
All right, so here's Billy Idol. And now this was an addict, not necessarily someone sick all the time. Now, Did this person go through? Oh, you know who we should look at? We should look at Kurt Cobain after this.
Ooh, my favorite.
Because
Let's
Kurt
do it.
Cobain got into heroin because of his stomach problems. So
Ooh, that's like double sixth house.
exactly. Okay. Anybody looking at his Wikipedia and seeing if Billy Idol
I'm gonna pull it up.
has some illness issues?
This was honestly just me being a petty Betty because I want this guy to be wrong. So astrology is a multifarious tool. It can be used for revenge.
You're using it as and one of my all-time favorite genres is female revenge. So you go
Me
for
too.
girl.
Scorpio moon, baby.
You go, girl, get it. All right, so hold on. So let's come back to him. All right, so Kurt Cobain is ready. He's in the queue. Let me come back to Billy. Okay. Anything about illnesses?
Let's see. Motorcycle accident that cost him a leg. No, nearly cost him a leg. February 6, 1990.
Ooh,
and
I
a
love
struggle.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when he's 24. So he turns 25 in 1990 in November. So 24. Okay, we'll look at that. All right. So but nothing else as far as that. But we have an accident.
Yeah, haven't looked past the drug. Yeah, I'm looking now. That and the drug addiction major themes.
Okay, so what do we know? Okay, one of the things I'm seeing, first thing I'm seeing is the moon is in the first. What is one of the things that we know about the moon? And it's something that we think about the moon in connection with Venus.
Appetitive.
The moon and Venus are the planets of desire and appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, we've got appetite in the first house. Appetite on the angle. Look at what's on the other angle. Across.
Uh-oh. Is that Rahu?
It is. Which means that moon is on Ketu.
That is bad. That is not good is my guess, but I don't know exactly how. Would you mind like going on about that just for a sec?
So Shanice, do you remember what I said about K2? Shanice, I want you to tell her what you might be with kids. Hold on. I won't put you, because I noticed you've been writing. So usually if you've been writing, you're dealing with kids. Okay. So what I've been saying about K2, and I think that this really works when we think about addicts. Okay, this is the house. So this is not specifically a chart of somebody who's ill or a chart of somebody who's dealt with bad fortune, right? So sixth house is the house of bad fortune. This is the house of an addict. So addicts are what? Addicts are compulsive about their appetite and desire. Thus, we've got one of the main desire appetite planets in the first house. We've also got K2 in the first house. K2 creates disillusionment. So if the moon is the thing that we reach for in the face of stimulus, I've had a bad day. What do I reach for? A glass of wine. I reach for a joint. Speaking of which, I reach for some pussy. I reach for whatever, right? That's the moon. Right, the doctor puts the hammer on your knee and your reflex does whatever it does. Right?
It's funny, I was thinking the exact word reflex as you said that. It's
right.
What you reflexively reach for. It's what you do unconsciously.
That's right, because the moon is the non-rational mind. The non-rational mind, get it? Even though it's an irrational sign in this chart. What we've got in this chart, look at where the ruler of the ascendant is. The ruler of the ascendant in Sagittarius with the sun. We've got an adrenaline junkie here.
You think so? Combust Mercury, ruler of the ascendant.
Fire
combust.
Sun
in Sag.
Mercury and fire signs.
That to me too is like most likely. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. Let's just say they like to party is what I was gonna say.
Damn right. Absolutely. This would be the life of the party. This would be life of the party. This would be adrenaline junkie. This is an adrenaline or adventure junkie. Adventure. This is, always, it's all about dare. I dare you to do this. Oh, I dare you. I dare this, and I dare. This person always would be one-upping and daring, and peer pressure would be. It's the social group. So they would be daring their social group. The social group would be daring them. Look at how the Mars is in the 6th. It's a big 6th house, but Mars is right there in there. Is he in Scorpio or Libra?
Mars?
He's in Scorpio. Mars
Yeah,
is
we're looking.
and he would be the ruler of the natural 6th. So
Yeah,
he's
ruler of
there,
the 6th.
right?
Yeah.
So we've got somebody naturally combative, naturally loves to break rules, loves to be all that kind of bullshit. So let's see if the 12th house really is involved. There's the Mars is involved with who? Is he involved with the Mercury? The Mercury's at 5, the Mars is at 1. So no, not involved with the Mercury. Is the Venus involved with the Mercury? No. Is the Venus, is the ruler of the 12th involved with anything? It doesn't look like it.
No, so maybe not. Well, look, isn't it opposing the, oh, I guess that's like an out of house. Moon can't oppose anything in the 8th. Why is that red line there?
Because, these people are bullshit.
Okay,
Well,
but like that's, sorry, just make,
Venus is at
help me
zero.
with
Oh,
the geometry. I read that wrong. Or
Hold
is
on,
it,
hold on 1 second. The moon's
because if there's an
next-
opposition
wait,
there
stop.
from the 8th,
Stop 1 second. Stop. No, the moon's next application. Yes, the moon's next application would be to the Venus in the 8th,
okay.
but it's out of sign. So it's just, it's out of sign. It's Venus is at 0. So this is, oh, someone asked me about this. Somebody asked me, you've asked me about this, of course. This is one of those times when I would allow the moon to be applying to Venus. In which case, then yes, you are right.
That's the whole point of the exercise. No, I'm just kidding.
However, this would make Venus the ruler of the 6th in this chart. But by whole sign, it would make Venus the ruler of the 12th in this chart.
Wait, what? Ah, Libra. Christ, yeah.
Get it?
So either way, yes.
That's right. Now, the part of fortune, it's nighttime. 10 areas. So the part of fortune is at, so going back 180, 180 and forward 14, 180. Okay, so 180 and forward 14, 24 Sagittarius. 24 Sagittarius. So that's where the part of fortune is. So Jupiter is the ruler of the part of fortune. Where is he? Jupiter's in Leo, Sagittarius, Cancer. Sagittarius, Cancer is the 8th from the, Venus is the ruler of the 6th from the part of fortune. Taurus is the 6th from the part of fortune.
Take that, smug Redditor.
And
Thank you.
and Moon is applying to Venus, who's the ruler of the 12th or the 6th, based on whichever kind of chart. Okay, that's all we're going to do with Billy Idol. I
got something real quick for you. Very quick. After his new, like maybe 30th incident, waking up in a hospital, he decided, because of drugs though. We were still talking about drugs. He decided that his children would never forgive him for dying of an overdose. So he pretty much completely stopped.
Okay.
Ruler of the 5th, Mercury. It's interesting. He maybe sees himself and his kids and was like, I'm going to stop. Or I don't know. You tell me if you have an interpretation about that. I just thought it was an interesting quote.
Also, I want to point to that Moon is the ruler of the consumption in this chart.
Second. Okay. Yeah.
So the
Super
consumption,
cool.
This chart is all about consumption. It's all about being interaction and consumption. All right.
Okay.
Let's move
it.
Okay. We were going to look at when he went into that.
When he went to the hospital, February 6, 1990.
Okay,
so he was hit by a car when he ran a stop sign, which to me sounds kind of Marsy, doesn't it? He's going quickly.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. So let's see.
And he lost out on a big movie role because of this. It affected him in terms of career too.
Interesting. Okay, so this is 24. That's it. This is 24. So this is November of 1989. January would be Cancer. February would be Leo. It would be somewhere in between these two places. because he's the end of the month, isn't he? Yeah, November 30. Another person is born on the 30th. So this would be the 30th of January. And this would be, there is no February 30th. So it'd be somewhere, so the sun is involved somehow with
Isn't that what happened with Elizabeth Taylor too? Or did I just make that up?
It was the 30th, yeah, no, it was.
But it was like sun ruled, which was then combusting something.
Yeah, that is interesting, but it's combusting the Mercury.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
interesting.
also again though the chart ruler.
The chart, that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the planet that's ruling, and third house, if we were to do this as the third house, that's your short journeys. He was on the road. He was traveling.
Oof.
He was traveling, and Mercury represents roads and travels. So yeah, that kind of fits. It'd be interesting to see the solar return and to see if there's anything going on with that. Okay, let's look at Kurt Cobain. So as I mentioned, Kurt Cobain had dealt with, from almost his entire childhood, had dealt with stomach issues. So we should be looking at, what should we be looking at for stomach? Anybody?
Well, I talked a lot this class. Someone else talk.
Is it right? I mean, I don't care. It can be our little conversation. The moon, says Chica, very good. And what else? Which house?
It's the sixth house. No?
Nope. Fourth house. So for
Fourth
this,
house.
for the digestion and the organs, excellent, Maria. I think that was Maria. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Thank you. So for the organs and digestion, the sixth, but for the actual stomach itself, the fourth. So what do we notice? The moon and Jupiter, the ruler of the fourth, are both in Cancer. Is there anything going on? Any connection between them and anything that might be with the sixth house?
Well, they're co-present, but the sixth?
Who rules the sixth?
Saturn.
What degree is Saturn in his sign?
Ooh, he's right at the end.
And what degree is Jupiter in his sign?
Yeah, getting close to the end, but it's not approaching a aspect. Jupiter's retrograde.
It could
It doesn't matter. Okay.
It could be recently retrograde. It's a separating trine with reception.
That's cool. Hey, Antoine, if we ever are unsure of which body part goes with which house, what source can we verify that from?
Lily.
Lily, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Lily.
Okay, so trine between moon and ruler of the ascendant. No. Is that right?
No.
No.
Ruler of the fourth.
No. Ruler of the fourth. Thank you.
Ruler of the fourth, which represents
Saturn. Yeah.
represents the stomach. Now, also the moon represents the stomach, and the moon is in Cancer, which represents the stomach. And the moon is in Cancer, represents the stomach. So we've got that. Then the moon is applying to the trine of who?
Ruler of the ascendant.
That's right. Moon is applying to the trine of the ruler of the ascendant, to Mercury, which is the body.
Or just like the native themselves.
Right. And Mercury is where? In Pisces with whom? Venus and Saturn. Venus is what? The ruler of the part of fortune.
Oh.
Who's the ruler of the sixth from the part of fortune?
Okay. Moon.
Anyone?
Is it the sun?
Venus is the ruler of the sixth from the part of fortune.
Six from the part of, oh, wait. Yeah, you're right.
Part of fortune's in Taurus.
Taurus, and then it's Libra. I
That's
see.
right.
Yeah.
So that means then that Mercury is with the ruler of both the sixth from the ascendant and the sixth from the part of fortune.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is
we've
it
got
also technically under the rays or no? It's 17.
technically
No, it's
not.
just out,
Oh,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, technically not. But this Venus is not helpful. See, the ruler of the part of fortune is with the ruler of the sixth.
It's funny how it's not helpful because isn't Venus exalted in Pisces?
She is.
But it's
She's with
but
malefic.
yeah.
She's with the see, this is how excuse me. This is how indicators can be mixed. This is a person who got to the highest state of fame and killed themselves before 30.
Yeah. I know you don't really subscribe to this, but we're looking at a night chart, right? So supposedly if you believe sect, the most difficult planet is going to be Saturn. And it's right there with the Mercury.
Oh, I like that. I don't disbelieve sect. I just think it's kind of blown out of proportion because somebody's come up with this little formula. I think that everybody's kind of holding on to it and giving it maybe a little bit more importance than necessary.
I feel you. Show me the money.
The thing is that we didn't need that.
Yeah.
To come to this conclusion. That's my only point, is that I've never felt that that's been something that that distinguishes whether or not something's going to happen. Right.
Got
That's
it.
what we're really. Oh, and I was even going to make that point. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. So almost everything that Bonatti mentions in that consideration for 16 things that are supposed to be happening, almost everybody, almost everything that he talks about, all of that stuff is in the introductions that the Al-Biruni Al-Kabizi book that I've been working also with. And the one thing that he does not mention is the very first one, under the first thing listed under planetary configurations, and that's domain and sect. That's not listed at all. And so I just noticed that today when I was looking, and I thought, oh, wait, that's one of the things, but it's not listed as one of the 16. So sect is not something that contributes to perfection. And so I think even then, it was something that gave the planet a little bit. Remember, a face is the planet in nice clothing. Maybe sect is the planet, that's been dropped off by a limousine.
So Shika, sorry, I'm saying your name wrong, asked like a really good question. I feel like
I'm just coming to it. How does Saturn have more strength outside of being malefic, contrary to sect and angularity, over exalted Venus, who is exalted, benefic of sect and more angular? Oh, how does he have more strength? Oh, it's not so much about is he stronger, it's about is he? He's got enough, he's cold and dry. He's got enough cold and dryness to stop her wetness. It's not, he's not as strong as she is, but he doesn't have to be. He can just be him and dampen her ability, or shall we say, chill out her ability. Right. So yes, this is, and in this particular case, we can probably see it happening in a lot of different ways. We could probably see it happening as a person who practices all the time. Venus Saturn, right? Very, very responsible, whenever it comes to anything musical, will be super, super serious and always practicing. He probably was the one keeping the group together, super serious about, what we're doing and where we're going, right? So we can see it functioning in a good way, or in a constructive way. But then we can also see him being Saturn. Saturn is going to slow it down. Saturn is going to make you frustrated. He's going to just be himself. That's why I take so much time talking about what makes a planet, what impedes or what saves a planet. Not necessarily in this particular case, no. Right? I know we want it to be the case. Here's the thing. We don't really want to see things be negative. But this person is dead. This person killed themselves before they were 30. This is one of the most famous people in the world for music.
See, but you're calling it on the Saturn, right? I'm looking at that Pluto sitting right the freak on the ascendant. If it were the sun, it would be Cazimi. It's how tight the conjunction is.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's great.
You're like, leave it alone.
I mean, I don't, I mean, yeah, sure, that's obviously
I
going to
use
have
Pluto
some-
myself that much. I'm just saying it's right there.
It's
Like
there.
what?
I mean, but there are lots of people that, this is not the first person born with that. Right? There, anybody born, what, within, anybody
It-
born within, what, that 18 years or 9 years or whatever, with this conjunction, and born at a certain time of the day is going to have that. Is every single person who's born with the Pluto-Uranus conjunction on their ascendant gonna kill themselves?
No, but I feel like the suddenness of killing yourself to me is more associated with a planet that involves action than one that involves almost inaction.
What planet is the one that involves action?
Pluto and Uranus. Uranus more.
I don't see that, because Mars is the planet of action.
Fine. Mars I'll give you,
Yes.
but I wouldn't associate that with Saturn. That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Oh,
Where
you-
do you
you
see him
wouldn't-
killing yourself?
Oh,
Because I don't see it there.
Oh, no. I'm basically, and I'm not associating Saturn specifically with killing himself. What I'm really saying is, what her question was, is the Saturn strong enough to dampen Venus's ability?
Okay. I go, yeah. And you're saying, okay, I got you.
Right? And
Yeah.
then, and we're also, remember, we're talking about within the context of illness, and that this person's illness hounded him for his entire life. Hounded him. And it's the reason that he moved to heroin, because he was given morphine and the morphine helped. And so then he started doing morphine on his own. So note that the Venus is the consumption planet in this chart. Note that Saturn is the ruler of the 6th house in this chart.
Okay.
Note
Yes.
that Saturn is in the separating trine from Jupiter, who rules everything. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and the 4th house of the stomach. Note that the moon is also in Cancer with the exaltation ruler, who rules the stomach, and the moon also rules the stomach. That's my point. Note that the ruler of the 8th is in the 2nd. That which I consume can kill me.
Yeah.
Note that the moon is applying to the trine of Mercury, who is fallen and recently out from under the beams, and going to apply to the conjunction of Saturn, the ruler of the 6th, and is the ruler of the ascendant. The moon rules the stomach. Cancer rules the stomach. Jupiter rules the 4th house, which rules the stomach. Saturn and Venus and Mercury and the sun are in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter rules the stomach. The sun is the ruler of the 4th house from the part of fortune, which rules the stomach. The sun is in Pisces. Venus is in Pisces. Venus is the ruler of the part of fortune. That's what I'm saying.
It was well said. So regarding his romantic stuff, I've read Venus conjunct Saturn shows a propensity for older partners. She was like a bit older than he was, but not super old.
Like with less than 10 years. wasn't it?
Yeah.
Less than 10 years.
So not really enough to show it.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
you know, it's
And
interesting.
they were friends before they dated, ruler of the
They
Saturn?
were, you know,
And
she was also in a band. There, you know, she's also in a band, and so there's the Venus Pisces. You know that Courtney Love knew Jeffrey Epstein. Let's see. I remember when you said that when you're depressed, you go to your 5th house. With the 5th house ruler by Saturn conjunct Venus, could he find pleasure in difficulty, subconsciously doing things that make life hard? Ooh, I love that. Cosine Venus equals Saturn in the 12th. Yes, that's very possible. I would think that instead he might try to do difficult musical things, right? Because Venus is music, right? So I would say that this person would be, like, once again, extremely serious about music. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that Kurt Cobain had a certain technical prowess that other people didn't have because he practiced more than others. That's what keeps coming up for me, is that this person was very serious about
The
music.
Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. Let's see. Let's see. Had a musical background. Described as a happy, excitable child who also exhibited sensitivity and care. His talent as an artist was evident from an early age.
And see, there's the Mercury with the Venus. And see, Venus is the ruler of the part of fortune. So the Venus, Saturn, so what planet? So then the question is, what houses does Saturn rule from the part of fortune? It's 10 and 11, or 9 and 10. So that's quite auspicious. So in that particular case, the Saturn could be working this is why I'm saying the Saturn can be doing more than one thing, Chica. The Saturn can be helping this person to move ahead as ruler of the 9th and 10th from the part of fortune. And it could also be creating a chronic illness as ruler of the 6th. And also give strong power of concentration as ruler of the 5th.
Saturn's not close. No, never mind. Never mind. Huh.
Yeah, and when I was saying that about the 5th, I was talking about in the midst of depression, it's about finding joy, and our joy is in the 5th house. What gives us joy? I mean, the 1st house and the 5th house are the things that bring us joy. The 1st, 5th, and 9th, right? What are called the konas. Okay, so any questions about Kurt Cobain? Or any more other?
Can you see in the chart, and it's very, very okay to say, no, I don't see, that his parents didn't get along? Because one of the things that struck out to me was he tried to get them to reconcile, they divorced. He said it was one of the most, that it had a profound effect on his life and that it changed his personality dramatically.
The issue with the parents. Is that what you said? Oh, I don't see it. I mean, I might, let's see, part of the father, son, it's was it Saturn to Sun?
Father promised not to remarry, but he did, had kids.
Back 27. So it's somewhere in Leo. And then mother, moon to Venus. Venus back 13. No, no, I can't really see it. No, I don't really see the I mean, with Jupiter and the moon in Cancer, well, with them stuff in Cancer, I would think of maybe something Jupiter's return of virtue of nature, because that's possible. But what I was thinking was that there might be an issue of changeability in the household.
Which is
Right.
kind of what it sounds like.
Instability.
All right, forget it. There's a better question. We're looking at a grand trine between Moon or Jupiter, Neptune, and Mercury.
She wants to know if that contributes to the addiction.
Yeah, I think if you use Neptune, it for sure
I don't
does.
see why not. Yeah, I wouldn't see why not. Certainly the Venus Jupiter, you don't need it. You got the Venus Jupiter.
Is there any importance to this? What is this? Rahu again? I always get them flipped. Rahu conjuncting the part of fortune. Yeah. Do those ever give meaning together?
I mean,
like I've looked at them separately, but never.
It's certainly something to look at. It's certainly something to think about. Always, and look at that means the Mars is with K2, the ruler of the 8th. Mars is the ruler of the 8th of death.
Yeah, it's with K2.
So, I don't know what I think is that there's a lot of frustration, a lot of sensitivity and frustration in this chart. A lot of turning within and not necessarily to the right thing.
A lot of water. It just struck me, other than his ascendant. A lot of freaking water.
Almost everything.
Yeah, which then makes sense. Like, he'd have a bad emotional episode, go about dealing with it the wrong way, and accidentally dies.
Or just
maybe on purpose.
Yeah,
I guess he wrote the note.
You have an illness, you have a physical
Yeah.
illness, and go about it the wrong way and die. You know, I mean, he basically died because he was so disgusted with himself for his addiction. So, and the addiction was happening because he had the ongoing stomach problems.
Yeah.
So either way, and Maria, to your point, if we wanted to look at it from sixth house, as you know, looking at it from the viscera or digestive system, if it were a digestive problem, right? Then we have Virgo on the ascendant. We've got the ruler of the sixth for the digestive issues with the Venus and the Mercury. And then, you know, so we could still look at it from a sixth house perspective and come to a similar, what six from Taurus is Venus once again. So Venus once again representing the digestion, if indeed the digestion is the problem. I remember being specific to the stomach, but either way, if we wanted to look at it in that way, we also can. Okay, I'm going to stop there. This is the chart of someone who was gang raped. And so we're looking at this chart from the perspective of a crime being committed against you is bad fortune. It's something that where we experience the bad fortune of the crime against us.
No, she's young.
Yeah. Well, she's 28 or 29.
To me, that's young.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still young to me too.
I mean, but you know, you see all these charts, 18 and 19-year-olds in Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, notice that the moon is in the sixth.
Yeah. And in fall.
And in fall, and with Pluto.
Yeah.
It's not
To me, I was gonna say
Go ahead.
Scorpio too, because I have it.
And Scorpio, right? And of
It's
course,
associated with it.
And squaring Mars.
and squaring Mars, applying to the square of Mars. So we already know that there's some, now we might think, oh, is there an illness? Right? Might there be a problem? There might be an illness or problem, but already we've got Moon's next application is to the square of Mars, the ruler of the sixth house, the natural.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Natural ruler of the sixth. Now, is there any connection between the Saturn and the Mercury? Or the Mercury and the Moon?
Mercury.
Or this Moon and Saturn, because Saturn's ruler of the eighth.
Are they sexed? No. Mercury. Kind of wide.
Okay, note a few things. Note that if we were looking at this from a point of view of whole sign, Mars is angular. First of all, Mars is angular, period. So the ruler of the sixth is advancing, is in a state of advancement. So remember what I've always said, the very first thing we should be doing is looking at what's angular, because that's going to tell us what is kind of what the chart, what's coming, what gets to flourish, what gets
Well, look at Venus.
Right. And Venus is the
Yeah.
ruler of the natural what?
Venus, ruler of natural 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10.
And what?
10.
No, she's not ruler of the.
Oh, sorry. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait, what?
12.
Oh,
She's
12, sorry.
ruler of your
Yeah, that's the
enemy.
12th house.
She
Yeah.
was gang raped. Venus is in a fertile sign of many people. Venus, she was raped. 12, your hidden enemy. This woman was gang raped.
Yeah.
There is her
And the
hidden
Venus
enemy
too
right there.
is yeah, and it's supposed to, I mean, this might be too literal of a read, but by Jupiter in retrograde in a bad sign. I don't remember whether that's fall or detriment.
Jupiter's ruler
But
is
like
the
she
seventh,
literally bad luck with other people,
right?
bad luck opposing Venus,
That's right. That's
someone
right.
finding her beautiful.
Even so, there could even be an open enemy. It could, it could have been instigated by someone she rejected.
Oh God.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of thing that could show up in that necessary. No, like you say, the ruler of the seventh is in detriment and retrograde, and opposing the Venus. So it could have. This feels very much like it could have been someone she was dating, or someone that she thought she could trust who she was dating, who then put her in that position.
Did she? I mean, you're speculating, so you don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I'm speculating. I don't know, or I don't remember, but I'm just, like I said, I'm just using what the chart. But there is the sixth house ruler right on the cusp of the 10th. We're very close to the cusp of the 10th. Public.
Yeah.
In the 10th.
I mean, hopefully in the sense that she reported those assholes, and not in the sense that that's what she's going to be known for in this lifetime.
Or that it would be, yeah, exactly. I think it's probably might be both, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the nature of something like that happening to you. Like it's not just something you forget about.
No, but isn't it interesting? Oh, note that that Venus is squaring the ascendant. So Venus is squaring the ascendant. The Saturn is trining it.
Yeah.
So the Mercury is separating from the Saturn. So who is the ruler of the part of fortune? Let's see here. So it's daytime. So back 120 and back another 10, back 120, back another 10. So Saturn is the ruler of the part of fortune. So it's 2 degrees of Aquarius. So
8,
meaning that
9.
which puts the Saturn and the Mars there. So now we've got the ruler of the 6th and the 8th on the part of fortune. And the ruler of the 8th and the ruler of the part of fortune is on the part of fortune. So who's the ruler of the 6th from the part of fortune? It's the moon, who's in the 6th. And who's the ruler of the 8th from the part of fortune? It's Mercury, who's the ruler of the ascendant.
And also the ruler of Jupiter.
And also Jupiter's in the 8th, right? Yeah. Jupiter's in the 8th from the part of fortune there. That's right. And ruler of the 7th there. So this chart was already going to give us, we already know that there were going to be challenges with relationships here. We also know that there was going to be a strong hidden enemy with this. And if we use Mars as the ruler of the 12th, it looks like Mars is like the 30th degree, then the ruler of the 12th, then we've got the ruler of the 12th on the 10th here. So either way, 6 or 12, remember how Manilius was just talking about 6 and 12 can represent the same things?
Different aspects of the same things.
Who's the 12th from the part of fortune? Saturn. Who's the 12th from the ascendant? Venus or Mars, depending on which chart we're using. Let's see, 6. Yeah, 29, 30 Aries, 6th house, 12th house rather. But I'm going to go ahead and just use Mars as so either way, right? Mars becomes the ruler of the 12th, which is your hidden enemy, which is violence. And then we've got the moon applying to the Mars by square, which is already challenge and vying, right? And see, here's another one. Here's another one, Shanice. The moon is pushing nature at Mars.
Moon pushing nature, yepers. It has to be an aspect. Oh, and there is. And it's what? Is that a trine or a square? I'm really bad at math.
The square, yeah.
Thank you. But okay, so it's a Mars aspect and pushing nature of Mars on Mars.
And Mars is ruler of what house?
Some of the good ones. Oh,
Mars
some of the bad ones.
Six
and
house.
the 11th. Maybe it was a friend.
No. So Mars rules the 6th or the 12th.
What?
right? The ruler of the 11th is Jupiter in this chart.
Because of the cusp. Sorry, I was looking at a whole sign.
Mars would rule the 12th. Whole sign, Mars rules the 11th.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
bad.
Like you said, right? Whole sign, Mars rules the 11th and Venus. But if we're using the cusp, then the ruler of the 12th is angular. If we're using whole sign, then the ruler of the 12th is angular. Got it?
Yes.
So there is the ruler of the 12th hidden enemies.
Okay.
Unfortunate happenings. If we
You-
use the whole sign chart, the ruler of the 6th is angular.
So the ruler of the 12th being angular, is that a pretty reliable indicator of enemies then?
Yes, generally.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
of you doing fucked up shit,
Okay.
right? And probably
Savage,
both. In
but
this
not
case,
untrue.
probably both. More than likely what happened with this, I mean, I don't want to victim blame. I think that these are two separate issues. I want to keep them separate. There's the rape that happened to this person, but we can also see that there are problems with love in this person's chart.
I mean,
Right.
Huh?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, we agree.
Period. Yeah. It doesn't make her in any way culpable, but sometimes.
No, that's why I'm separating.
Oh
I'm
wait, I
separating.
got something for you. You're gonna fucking hate this though, but let me put it on you. Nessus, because this lady obviously does modern. She's throwing in a bunch of asteroids. There
Mhm,
is the abuser asteroid.
Ooh,
Venus conjuncts it.
Ooh.
Also move it like transit Nessus is on natal Venus. It's both.
Oh, how interesting. Oh, very interesting. Maybe there's something to this whole asteroid thing. Wonderful. Now, mind you, I've never said asteroids ain't shit. I mean, I have said that, but mostly I just don't use them because we've got the Arabic parts. I mean, I've already got the imaginary shit. I don't need to use them.
Yeah.
But that's
I get what you're saying. It's kind of a shortcut to get out of doing the work. And I'd rather do the work with the 7 than sort of be like, oh, there's like,
I
this is more
agree.
speculative. That's the problem, at least to me.
Okay. And here's the thing. The thing is that for me, it's about stacking up indicators to make a judgment, right? So I would never look at the asteroids first anyway. I would only look at them to confirm what I've already thought about, what I've already come to considerations about with the planets. Right. So it's only, because the abuser is Mars or Saturn. So I'd want to see what's going on with them. And then I would see the Nessus for something else too. But I love that. That's really very interesting. We didn't need
abuse
it,
to her as a woman. Yeah.
but we didn't need it. We know the
No.
abuser is there, right? We know the abuser. We know that abuse is happening in this chart because the moon's applying to the square of Mars, who's the ruler of the 6th.
It can be multiple things. I don't usually see like transit on one natal and then
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I feel like that flips kind of cool. I don't
That
see it
is
that
interesting.
often. Yeah.
Very cool. That is very cool, actually, and makes just think maybe that's what makes them work, right?
Yeah.
Because it's on a ruler, right? So it's on the ruler of Nessus. It's not
Yeah.
just like what I usually find is that people just look at the asteroid; they never look at the planet that rules the asteroid.
Yeah, they never get. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that either.
It's always just,
yeah.
this asteroid means this, and it's there, and oh, blah, blah, blah. But what you just did was you went to the ruler of the asteroid and saw that the transit was on the ruler.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah,
never
exactly.
seen, and no one, I've never seen anybody do that.
What can I say?
So yeah,
Crazy.
so kudos to you. You may have come up with
Asteroid theory.
you may have, no, seriously, you may have. I mean, it's like when I'm on Clubhouse, I always ask people, what are you working on? What is you're interested in? Because what we gravitate to in astrology is representative of our own astrology.
That's true.
And so,
That's true.
the fact that, that's something that is interesting to you, if that's something that interests you, follow it, pursue it, find what it is that, that really interests you, even if it's something I'm going to give you shit
Yeah.
about all the fucking time, right?
Yeah, give
Right?
it to me. I mean, I had a phase. I'm not saying I'm super into it, but even Lee Lehman wrote a book on asteroids at some point. I feel like everyone.
She sure
It's
did.
part of growing up. You like have that.
Yeah.
phase.
And Demetra
oh,
George.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
What
right.
I think
Demetra George too. That's right.
totally. and it was actually you who inspired me. You said something really interesting. You had some series about how you looked at like the questions on Reddit and how encoded in the question was something to do with the answer. So like at first I was ignoring the asteroids, but I was like, she chose to put them in here. What did she choose and why? And is any of it relevant? And that's why I looked.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And remember, it's that we are led by the spirit of inquiry is the important thing to me. That's all that matters. And can we come to conclusions of what works and what doesn't? That's all I care about. That's all I fucking care about. What works? What doesn't work? Let's try this. Ooh, that works. Ooh, fuck that shit. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. So absolutely, like all of the questions, I mean, what you just did with Vanessa's thing, that was stupendous. And necessitates further study. And even like I said, even though I don't use them, I don't give a shit about them, but that was fucking cool. Someone needs to be looking at that. And so that's my main point about everything. It's that we're going to be attracted to the thing. We're going to be attracted to these things, and they're showing who we are. They're showing us who we are. They're showing me who you are as well. And so I think that we can see pretty closely in this chart that both the 6th and the 7th are pretty much dealt with. I mean, the 6th and the 12th are pretty much involved in this situation. She experienced a situation of bad fortune in the form of a rape, in the form of sexual violence. Right? Mars is violence. Scorpio is the sex organs.
Oh, I didn't even think about that angle. Yes, of course. That's why I associate Scorpio with sexual. Okay.
Right. That's where everybody associates sexual things. But note also that Mars is with Saturn, the ruler of the 8th, who also rules the sex organs. Violence to the sex organs.
Sex organs. Yeah.
Violence to the sex organs. So this is something very interesting to me, because I've never really thought of the idea of this rape